Hello and welcome to Point of View. I'm Tania Nugent and thank you for joining us. Coming up today, a bit of a focus on our nation's capital and our traditional landowners of Port Moresby. And we talk about our national addiction, the buai chewing habit. But first, I'd like to welcome my fellow panelists. Once again, we have Izabell joining us on the set, out of the streets, and Philma as always, lovely to have you on the program. Our special guest today is the CEO of the PNG Cancer Foundation, a father of two gorgeous kids, and a proud Hanuabaran man, Dadi Toka. Dadi, welcome to Point of View. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much, Tania and the team. Thanks for having me on board.
Well, I deliberately noted to our audience that you are from Hanuabara village, which, let's face it, it is the most famous village in our country, and I challenge anyone to argue otherwise. It's one of about 12 Motuan villages that spread out along the coastline right here in our nation's capital. And the Motu Koitabun people only make up a very, very tiny percentage of our city's population, where there's probably 500,000 people in Moresby. So, Dadi, tell us a little bit about that, being a Hanuabaran, and having the honour and the privilege of having our nation's capital on, right actually at your doorstep, literally, Hanuabara.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Yeah, it's quite amazing, how I guess Port Moresby was selected by the forefathers, we can call them, to be the city where government would be established, etc. So, I guess with that growth and development, everything's just happened around us. And yes, the Motukoita people are the traditional landowners of this amazing city, but it's come at a cost as well, which is quite unfortunate. And there's a group of I guess young leaders coming across now that are trying to address it before it turns into something else that we don't want to see in the future. Yeah,
I mean, even just when you look at it on a visual level, you look at this, to me, idyllic layout of Hanuabara, these gorgeous homes out, in an environmentally sustainable and sound way over the water, and then this thing is growing all around it. It physically looks that way when you look at it. What are some of the things that you think what are the costs that have come to your village and the other villages nearby?
Yeah, well, I think the main one to point out, I guess from any landowner's perspective, will be the land grabbing issues, and there's a lot of families that are trying to address it, as soon as they can, because that's the only asset any family has, especially for families in or customary landowners in the nation's capital. But like I said, it's just. It's quite unfortunate that it's developed this way. I've had many discussions with some of our leaders who've come through the back in the 70s, and they had a very different foresight of how the development of the city with the customary landowners would transpire, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't come to materialize, the way they were expecting it, and now we've got all these issues. Like I said, they need to be addressed quickly before it turns into it blows out into something that could be quite costly.
Yeah, so. I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted the explosion of our population. I don't think anybody would have predicted just the full-blown influx of people who descended on Port Moresby post-independence. I remember it clearly. Like, I just remember, year after year, before my very eyes, the landscape of my city that I was born in changing. And so it just made me think, Port Moresby is a melting pot of our nation on the one hand. There are people here from literally probably every corner of our country. And people feel a sense of ownership on the one hand about this being their city too. And often, to me, overlooking the traditional landowners and the importance that role they have in our capital and its development, and how I think they should be presented more prominently. So I want to ask you two girls, Philly, you're from the Highlands, Izzy, you're from New Guinea Islands. What would you do if this city was, you think about your traditional land, your Grand Loyu from where you're from, and imagine this city plonked on top of it, how would you feel?
Well, in the Highlands, we're very territorial. We're very, our land is our bloodline, you know, it's in our blood. So I would imagine most of my people would want, you know, something for what they're giving, because that's life in itself. And, you know, I wonder about the culture, because the influx of Western ideas and so many different concepts, does it erode the culture? Because I think the people in this area have been the most affected, you know, in terms of their culture, their way of life, you know, their fishing, everything, it's affected them greatly. And I don't know how, like my village, my grandparents are subsistence farmers, you know, we live like that. So how that would have a great effect in terms of that. But in terms of development, I guess it could be a good thing. But I'm not so sure now, you know, when I think about how much we can lose, you know.
Exactly. I think more people should think. What do you think?
I'm not too sure. I probably wouldn't like it personally, because I want to go back to the village and get away from the city. That's me. That's just my opinion. I'd have to agree with a little bit with Philly on how the influx of culture would change a bit of everything, and I want to go back to my village and my people and just like chill, you know. That's what. I'm
pretty clear. I can tell you right now, no way would I choose for, you know, it to be so. And I think that's all. I don't think very many people would. I mean, when you weigh it up, like, yes, sure, you might have a hospital, you might have the international airport, you might have all these great buildings, a vision city, blah blah blah. But look at what you're sacrificing, and this is, you know.
That's very true, and I guess, you know, the both of you, you know, how you, well, the three of you, how you've responded, you know, it's quite clear that you know, not many people would be happy to have you know, the capital city built on their land. As we said before, you know, there are benefits to it, but it comes down to the management of the city, and then how the landowners you know, are being looked after. So you know, I tend to see it as, you know, everything will rise and fall on leadership, and this is you know, what's concerned me for some time, and this is why I've got, you know, we've got the elections coming up, so you've got young people like Lohia Samuel, you know, they're from our generation, and they want to make that step up now to, you know, we need to fix this problem, and you know, in order to do that, we need to have our voice in Parliament, and you know, the best way forward is to have you know, one of a Motuko and a son to be up there. So yes, it's quite unfortunate it's unfolded like this. You know, I would have loved to have seen it unfold in a different manner. But I can tell you right now, it hasn't transpired the way it was expected, and you know, that's why we're trying to quickly address it.
Let's hope that that can happen, and I just thought that it is some food for thought, you know, for the people that enjoy the privilege of being in Port Moresby, in our capital. Shout out, massive respect to the Motukoi Tabuans. We need to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be switching the discussion to Dadi's other passion, creating awareness and reducing the risks of cancer in Papua New Guinea. Stay with us. Welcome back to Point of View. Our guest today is Dadi Toka, who is the CEO of the PNG Cancer Foundation, an organisation that focuses on reducing the threat and impact of cancer through education, prevention and improving clinical support. Dadi, first of all, give us an overview of the work of the Cancer Foundation and the status of PNG when it comes to all the different kinds of cancers, because there's lots of different kinds.
Yes, very, very true. You know, cancer, of course, it's a new discussion that we're taking. You know, it's a discussion that was held many years ago, but you know, basically in small rooms, and this is or in a private setting, if I may add. So the Cancer Foundation has been operating for for about 4 years now. Previous to that, I guess the major operation was Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society, and I believe one of the hosts here was a volunteer there. And with the Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society, I was a volunteer with them for 7 years, and before I was offered this this role to look after I guess the bigger franchise of it. So the work of the Cancer Foundation is basically to complement what the government or the Department of Health is trying to roll out with its education and awareness and prevention of cancer, of the issues around cancer in Papua New Guinea. So we, and that's where our strength is. We've got a very small team. But we try and deliver above and beyond with the minimum the minimum funding we have. So we strive high because at the end of the day the service that we're providing is going to be saving lives, and sometimes it just happens to be your own or someone very, very close to you. So we just there are fortunate situations and there are some unfortunate situations, but we've got a lot of testimonies around now, and thanks to the work that the Cancer Foundation is doing, and with its supporters. So because I believe in collaborations and partnerships in Papua New Guinea, because not with teamwork you can deliver something successfully. Yeah.
With the Cancer Foundation, I've seen a lot of breakfasts and a lot of things around the city. What are the biggest events you have in the year? The annual events and things like that?
So as far as events are concerned, so we've it used to be called the Biggest Morning Tea, but now we've rebranded it and we're calling it Let's Talk Cancer. Reason of rebranding, because the Biggest Morning Tea was a concept that we adopted from Australia, it just didn't quite roll off the tongue, because a morning tea event, but people would host it for breakfast or lunch or dinner, and it didn't go hand in hand with the messaging. Okay. So we've changed it to Let's Talk Cancer, because then you can, then it's not affiliated to a meal time. Yes. But you can do it wherever you can. Whether it's at the market or in the ladies' bathroom. The idea is to have that conversation without any boundaries, and to encourage people to talk more, because I guess the more you communicate, the chances, or the more you communicate, it allows you to deliver the message as far as you can.
Sure. So there's that particular event.
So that's one of the events, and then it comes to let's say August. So in August we do our golf day. So Daffodil Cup Golf Day. We're very fortunate to have also sponsor it for 14 years now. So it's been running for 14 years. So it's probably one of the longest running charity golf days at the Royal Port Moresby Golf Club. And then the one in October is Pink. So once again, that was branded as Pink Ribbon Brunch, because brunch, a concept taken from Australia again. So now this year we'll be rebranding it as Pink Ribbon Lunch. Okay. Let's just do lunch. The brunch is just getting too it's too fancy. But the concept's the same.
Okay. In the gay community, brunch is the favourite gay meal of the day. They are the kings of brunch.
Okay. Yes.
So Pink Ribbon and brunch, it's
And then at the end of the year, in November we'll do Marshgrass. So men's Marshgrass is on men's cancer awareness. Yes. So once again, all these programs have a component of education and awareness around it. Yeah. And this year, so just pending approval now. So NCDC have given their approval, and we're waiting on gaming board now. So this year, hopefully next month, we will be launching possibly one of the unique raffles or draws in the city. So we're going to be raffling an apartment in Cairns.
Oh my gosh!
So there'll be more details for that later. But we're just once the approval comes through from hopefully from gaming board, there'll be more details. So we're lucky to have these people who who want to partner with us and help us, you know, raise, you know, the much needed funds to continue our work. So, so that's from the fundraising component. Then we do community and office education programs, and this year we're doing, you know, of course, back in schools again with healthy teens, and that's to talk about, you know, making healthy lifestyle choices. Because what you'll find is that a lot of cancers are preventable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in a country, in a developing country that has limited resources, you know, I think, yes, we focus on, let's go build this hospital and put X amount of machines in it, but you know, we can't even get Angao right. So you know, why should we focus on building another 10 hospitals or so? You know, let's get Angao right, okay? But on top of that, you need to work in parallel to education. So let's focus on prevention as well. It's the cheapest way to reduce the risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the costs around it, I know everyone's going to lay, but that's a very long queue there, and then families then start looking at options outside of Papua New Guinea, and I've had to do that myself, you know, for my sister, and you know, and I did my own research, and we realized Manila was the cheapest.
Wow.
Or the most economical option. So where you don't, you know, really go through the stress of getting a visa. So she went and she had cervical cancer. So and we went to Manila, and you know, the cost of that is quite high, and not everyone can afford it. Hence, you see a lot of fundraising activities. You know, corporate dinners to you know, selling food at events and things like that. And, it's unfortunately becoming the norm. You know, every time you know, a patient needs to be taken outside of Papua New Guinea for treatment. Yes. So you know, that's as far as a treatment is concerned. You know, we've got very limited resources. You know, hopefully, you know, when the new government comes in, you know, they'll put more funding into treatment. But as I said, I think prevention is just as important. And you'll see now that the cervical cancer, or the proper term is HPV vaccination. But it's a vaccination for cervical cancer, prevention of it. So you know, there's a pilot being rolled out, and hopefully, upon the success of that pilot, government will put more money into that vaccination. Developing countries are doing it. You know, for many years. I guess in Papua New Guinea, we, you know, with the current economic issues we're having, you know, there are some other priority areas, but you know, it's one of those programs that it's a low-picking fruit. You know, you understand what I mean? It's an easy one to implement, and you know, sometimes it's not as expensive. So we need to take a quick break. We will talk a bit more about cervical cancer and the HPV vaccine in a moment, and some of the other cancers. We will have to take a quick break, and when we return, we are going to be talking about buai chewing, how our national addiction has put us at #1 in the world for mouth cancer. Stay with us. Welcome back to Point of View, and we have the CEO of the PNG Cancer Foundation, Dadi Toka, in the studio with us today. And just before the break, I mentioned that according to the World Health Organization, Papua New Guinea leads the world in mouth cancer. So I don't think there's any secret why. Dadi, perhaps you can throw some light on why we have such high rates of oral cancer or mouth cancer. Yeah, well, I guess you know, a question like that is best you know, answered by someone from the clinical field, and we've got many experts in you know, from the Department of Health. Yes, I would agree with those numbers, and of course the major contributing factor is, you know, chewing betel nuts, and it's once again, it's quite unfortunate. Listen, my mother passed away from mouth cancer as well, so it's not, and she was a heavy, she chewed betel nut like it was, you know, the world would end if she stopped. So it's something that I'm quite familiar with, you know, from you know, from both perspectives. Yes.
Yeah. It's a big one. I read somewhere that 98% of Papua New Guineans who have been diagnosed with mouth cancer are buai chewers.
Wow.
So it's just about, you know, it's pretty much all.
Yeah. What you know, what they say is that you know, you can start chewing now, but in about let's say 25 years or so, if you've been chewing betel nut for, you know, 25 years or so, you know, your chances of getting mouth cancer are much higher.
Wow.
So don't let kids chew. That upsets me when I see.
Is it true that, because one of my friends is a heavy betel nut chewer, and if she hasn't chewed betel nut for a week or so, she says her mouth hurts, so she needs to chew betel nut again? Yeah. Is that true? Like
I think it's a
addiction.
Well, I heard that buai itself is a narcotic drug, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it has some addictive
Qualities.
qualities in betel nuts. Hence, why people get attached to betel nut.
Yeah.
And I think
it's an addiction. Yes.
yeah.
You go through withdrawal symptoms. That sounds like a withdrawal symptom.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you tend to need more of it to get the
Ah.
same effect. So, you know,
But then
it's pretty bad.
isn't it traditionally like betel nut had its purpose and its place in
Yes.
society and was chewed for ceremony?
Yes.
Yes.
But now it's just abused,
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, well, we're going to actually talk a bit more about that. And Izabell went out onto the street and had a chat with some people out there, because really everywhere you go, wherever you are, there is a buai market in walking distance from you, just about everywhere in PNG. So let's see what people out there have to say about betel nut. Here's Isabella with Street View.
Buai, glorious buai. Some of us Papua New Guineans love buai more than we love our lives, and just can't get enough of it. So without further ado, let's head to the streets to ask the people what makes them go nuts for betel nuts. Now, you sa kaya buai tu?
Isa kaya buai.
Obviously, you sali buai tu eh. So, all porolo, all family tu sa kaya buai.
Biblo kora sakike.
You say all health issues blo buai tu.
No ka.
Sa buai sa causing mouth cancer.
Am misa remso. Na misa kake. Am kake blo ma. Papua New Guinea sakake na biblo sakake.
Do you know anything about the buai and how it affects your health and stuff?
Yes, I know a little bit by Department of Health putting out the posters for people getting mouth cancer through buai chewing, and it's very bad, and that's why I don't like to chew.
Often do you chew buai?
Often, but a few times, but like, yeah, kind of every day.
And what happens if you don't chew buai? You turn into the Hulk or something?
No, it's just just, you know, lazing around and all that.
Do you chew buai?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, everyone chews buai. Does your family chew buai?
Yes, some of them chew, some of them no.
And would you say times are different between, well, how would you say, chewing buai now than traditional times? Would you say it's different then? Like, is it more controlled or is it not controlled at all with chewing buai?
Yes, it's more controlled than from the past. Like, we have urban youths and those, especially those people who are looking at people who chew betel nut and check them or spot find and all that stuff. So
Those are some interesting perspectives from the public, so I thought I'd do my own research and head on down to my good friends and specialist, PIH. And we'll be chatting with Dr. Mohammed on mouth cancer and how buai is a contributing factor. So let's take a look.
Nowadays, cancer is a big issue, and the mouth is one of the main factors. So we have different kinds of cancers in the oral tissues, like we have tongue, cheek, buccal area, and palate. All these areas are potential for oral cancer. And as nowadays in PNG we see a lot of people taking buai, which is we call areca nut. And areca nut has some alkaloids. These alkaloids are potential factors for oral cancer, especially the submucous fibrosis, and also lichen planus, erythroplakia. All these things we have seen that these are arachnoid which is buai, is the predisposing factor for oral cancer. Even we have a lot of patients here who come here because of social factors, like they're going somewhere or getting married or planning to date somebody. They want to remove the buai stains. But when we open their mouth, we see inside all sorts of precancerous lesions inside. There's a typical feature of buai quid lesion at the cheek, at the posterior of the buccal region. And it is like sloping and whitish lesion. And these are precancerous lesions. Precancerous lesions are some lesions which is going to turn into cancer. So unless you take lime or betel leaf or whatever, only buai chewing can cause oral cancer. It is a potential factor for oral cancer. Combining together, they can also take tobacco also with it, but it has been proven that buai, only buai, without anything else, can be a potential factor for oral cancer. And WHO in 2010, they have mentioned that buai is one of the carcinogenic factors, number one, and it has got some addictive features too. So once somebody gets addicted to buai, they cannot stop themselves. They have all sorts of withdrawal syndromes. So it's just like any other addiction. So we need to address it very fast, and as soon as we stop it, we can make a change, and we'll see cleaner PNG, no butyl quids here and there.
Well, there you have it. That's all the time we have for Street View. It's time to head back to the panel for more discussion.
Thank you, Izabell. And we're going to take a very quick break now. When we come back, we chew over how our buai habits have changed over time and that infamous buai ban. Back soon. Welcome back to Point of View. Well, buai has become a central fixture in the daily lives of people and communities all over Papua New Guinea. According to a 2015 poll conducted by the Post-Courier on the buai trade, as much as 400,000 kina exchanges hands every day through buai. That's millions of kina a week changing hands through the sale and consumption of buai. So it is curious, you did raise it before, what are our buai chewing habits today and how have they changed since traditional times? And I'm going to start with, not you Philly, because buai wasn't traditionally in the highlands, but certainly our coastal and islands people. Dadi, how is buai used in a traditional Motuan society and how has it changed today?
Yeah, well, I think as we were discussing before we went on air, it's, it was useful. Certain ceremonies, and I guess I'm not sure how it evolved, but it now turned into a commercial entity of its own, and of course with the health risks around it as well. Yeah, very unfortunate. It's happened this way. But yeah, I don't chew betel nut, so it's very hard for me to kind of connect with with the history around it as well. So.
What about in New Ireland?
Oh, I wouldn't be the best person to say. I don't even chew betel nut, and my mom kept me well away from it. In fact, if so much as a betel nut crosses our gate, she'd just lose her cray-cray. Yeah. And I wouldn't be the best person to say. None of my family and none of my relatives, they don't even chew themselves.
Okay.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, you don't look like you chew, Philly. Do you chew?
No. First of all, I'm in the wrong business if that's the amount of money that gets exchanged
I know,
every day.
Yeah, man.
I don't chew. My parents, my mother did when she was pregnant. I think, but no, I don't chew. And my grandparents chew. My grandfather had the watermelon teeth because he chewed so much and smoked so much tobacco. And I'm like, oh, are you going to leave this habit? Told my cousins, they're like, no, custom, yeah. What custom?
Yeah, that was my next point, is that you are from the Highlands, and buai is not a thing that is traditional to the Highlands. Yet to me, just from what I see, they are the biggest fans of buai in this whole country.
Cross oceans to get betel nut back home.
They learned, even though you can't swim.
Oh yes.
Which brings me to the buai ban. We did talk about, you know, when you said you're in the wrong business because there is a lot of money. The buai ban, like that would have probably affected a lot of, you know, grassroots livelihoods. What do we think of this? How do you think the buai bans worked, Dadi?
Listen, this was a discussion that we had after the Hanobada shooting as well, and you know, it's once again, I don't chew, but I understand, you know, how it affected, you know, the livelihoods of many people in this country, or especially with the buai ban in the nation's capital. It's an informal sector that's generating a lot of money. So you can imagine why, you know, families, you know, need to go down that, you know, that line of business, you know, to put food on the table. But it was, you know, the last time I had this discussion was, you know, it just needed to be reviewed again, and, you know, possibly, you know, I'm sure the governor has his own views on it, but yeah, I mean, it could have been done differently on how it was implemented. It could have been done in phases or stages. It just seems like it went straight to a ban, and every time there's a ban, there's always going to be a black market. It goes hand in hand.
That's human nature. That's history. Go back to the prohibition in the US, where that's where the mafia came from. That's where organised crime was born, out of banning something that's intrinsically part of people's cultures.
Yes.
So I think that it's a little bit foolish, and we should look to history to learn things. That's my opinion on the buai ban. What is it for, though? Is it because of litter? What's the purpose of the buai ban?
I think for health reasons, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, sitting through one of the screenings for the mouth cancer during my volunteership, spitting buai can get TB, spread TB and other diseases, and then if you know, just being disgusting, you know, on the buses, they spit out the window.
Yeah. I think it was, I felt it was more a cosmetics, you know, approach. You know, the beautification of the city. You know, cannot be delivered properly if we're going to have people spitting out every day of their cars or wherever. So,
but I still see spitting.
Yeah, I think it's more of an attitude problem.
Yeah.
You know,
So I don't think banning it's going to me, it clearly hasn't worked. That's what I think. And I feel enormously saddened that these, you know, these grassroots mamas and, you know, who do their little buai market so that they can have, you know, their little money for school fees or food or to buy new saucepans or whatever, all of a sudden overnight became basically lawbreakers. Overnight they were criminals.
Yes.
I don't think it was executed properly, with police patrolling areas and then being violent and stuff like that. And when I interviewed some of the buai sellers, they expressed their opinions about the buai ban, and I would have to agree with them that it wasn't executed properly. They could have been a little bit, you know, more gentle, maybe a more gentle approach, just to get it through their brains. Oh, maybe selling buai is illegal. Maybe you should stop. And
But I think in saying that, there's always. I think we've got to, you know, understand that the education system in Papua New Guinea, especially through the public system, isn't the standard that, you know, that we'd like to have it at. So you're going to have a lot of people who are not going to be, you know, if you're trying to implement a ban, it's going to take time for them to get it through, you know, for them to change that behavior. And you see that not just, you know, for the ban, but many other issues around the city. It just goes back to education.
Yeah.
It, you know, and education, whether it's at school or at home. So and you know, we're trying to, you know, have someone who probably never went to school and trying to, you know, tell them this is a ban and trying to explain, you know, the conditions, terms and conditions on the ban. I don't think it's going to sink through very quickly.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. I hope they can sort it out soon. I just think everyone should just stop littering. Then we don't have to have a buai ban. Simple. Don't litter, don't spit, and you can chew wherever you like. We need to take a very quick break. We'll be back with more very shortly. Welcome back to Point of View, and our guest today is Dadi Toka, who's the CEO of the PNG Cancer Foundation. And we thought that we would do a little bit of a quiz shortly to get a little bit of general knowledge out there about cancer. But before we do, Dadi, just paint us a picture of what are maybe the top 3 cancers in PNG. We already mentioned mouth cancer. You know, where are the hotspots and what are our challenges?
That's right. Well, the statistics that we work off are the ones from IMR. So we go through the Department of Health for that, and they go back to 2010. So the top 3 are mouth cancer, cervix, and of course breast cancer. Okay. So they're the top 3. But there's a lot of emphasis on cervical cancer for, you know, I guess there's a lot of champions out there or survivors out there who are, you know, comfortable to come out and talk about it and you know, address the issue. And I support that, because I think we need to advocate more in order to get the relevant authorities to take action. And that's, you know, that's I guess that's part of our work, you know, getting testimonies from you know, from survivors. So in saying that, I guess cervical cancer being now you know, being under the spotlight, as we mentioned before, you know, the vaccination pilot is now being implemented by NCD, well, in partnership with NCD Health and Department of Health. And Rotary, so that's a wonderful project, and you know, I think they're doing about 28,000 girls.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's I think it's wonderful. Yeah, you know, you can you know, clearly say that 28,000 girls are going to be saved from cervical cancer in future. So
That's amazing.
Yes.
Why is cervical cancer so high? Is there any reason for that figure?
Cervical cancer is preventable.
Yes.
It's a preventable disease. In developed countries, they've got all sorts of systems in place to ensure that that you know that anyone that's diagnosed or is treated, you know, quite quickly, or the prevention methods you know, second to none. In a developing country like us, we just don't have, we actually don't have a cancer plan yet. So, sorry, we do have a cancer plan, but it's yet to be implemented. So we need an implementation plan. So that's, you know, going to take some time, and, you know, have all the stakeholders involved in how, you know, who's going to deliver what. So that's, you know, and that's part of the reason why, you know, our numbers in Papua New Guinea for cervix have just gone off the roof. And globally, we're up there. You know, we're one of the highest ranked in the world. So it's not just Papua New Guinea or in the region; it's in the world. So we, you know, that's why we. A lot of donors, you know, there's a lot of health partners that are trying to come on board and assist, you know, how do we reduce the impact in Papua New Guinea? But like I said, going back to prevention, it is a preventable disease.
Yes.
So then we can start with education. Okay, so education, as I said, you know, we're now in schools talking to children, talking about young girls, you know, talking about, you know, how smoking is scientifically linked to increasing your chances of cervical cancer, delaying your how should I say, sexual, you know, well, when you're sexually active, trying to delay that. You know, those, you know, those are just some of the, I guess, prevention points. Yes. For, you know, for the school projects, or the school workshops, I should say. And you know, we've got someone, a health educator. So she, you know, she travels around all the schools in Port Moresby at the moment, and that's what we're trying to enforce. And it's all about behavior, behavioral changes. So, you know, I guess our aim is to try and influence, you know, young girls that, you know, so it becomes the norm. So the older they get, they know that if they smoke, hey, I'm going to increase my risk of cancer. You know, maybe I should, you know, hold back to having sex, you know, a little bit older as well. those are just some of the reasons. But but also, getting them to know their body as well. Some women, Papua New Guinean women, they can, they're strong. Some of them, the pain is there, but they'll hold on because they've got to, finish the domestic work of the house, or make sure the kids are at school and things like that. So they'll hold that pain. So by the time they get to, it's unbearable, I need to go to a doctor. Yeah. It's all too late.
Yeah. Yes.
But see, in order for a woman to, to react differently, we need to educate them at a young age.
Yeah.
That if you feel that something's not right, and it seems like the symptoms for cervical cancer, you need to, well, in this case, depending on how old they are, get a pap smear or relevant screening options. The most recently, we did a program in Port Moresby, and a young lady attended that, and then a few weeks later she went and got her pap smear, and then she gave me a call after she had her pap smear, said if we can sit down for a coffee. So I sat down with her and she said, I've been diagnosed with cervical cancer. I went, oh jeez. Wow. And I said, dude, what did the doctor say? What stage are you? She said, I'm stage 1. I just had a big smile on my face.
Yeah.
That's rare for me to have that conversation. A lot of conversations I have with people who've been diagnosed as stage 3 or stage 4. So all she had to do was go get a hysterectomy, and that's it. So, as long as she, lives a healthy lifestyle and looks after her body, she's got a long life to live. So, she's younger than me. I won't tell you my age, but she's younger than me. But that was that story in itself. It kind of pushes me or encourages me that we're on the right track. I do have the odd argument. Why are you doing education and we don't have the system in place? We don't have the machines. The curative aspect of it isn't set in place. Well, we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah. That's right.
If we don't jump up and down, the government might not respond. So we've got to do it somewhere, and that's all part of advocacy. So so hopefully that story encourages more people to move on. Because if you're diagnosed with stage 1 cancer or cervical cancer, your chances of survival are quite high. Because we have surgery that can address it.
Yeah. So it's screening, breast screening, cervical pap smear. That's the clear
the services are there. And if you talk about the HPV vaccination, so the vaccine is available in Papua New Guinea outside of the pilot project. So it's available in some of the private hospitals.
Yeah.
Okay. So like the PIHs, they've got them there as well. So.
And I know you're rolling it out with school children.
Yes.
But it's something that women, mature age women like myself, perhaps it would be still effective.
Up to 25.
Up to 25. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's early 20s.
Oh, early 20s.
I need to. Yes.
Okay, that's not me.
Is there a cost? Can women go? Is there a cost or?
You need to check with the hospital, but there's very few hospitals that offer it.
Okay.
The vaccine's not cheap.
Yeah.
But it makes a big difference, we're trying to, save the future generation of this country, and I've been fortunate enough to sit in discussions with a gentleman called Professor Ian Fraser. Now, Professor Ian is the creator of this vaccine, and he's based in Brisbane, and we're quite humbled to seek advice and counsel from such a person of high caliber, especially in that industry, in the research industry. They just put him up there on a pedestal. He's Australian of the Year, and I think he's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize as well. Wow. So he's a wonderful man to listen to, and in a conversation with him, he said the vaccination for cervical cancer, the HPV vaccine, out of 1 million, there are 3, you know, out of 1 million girls, maybe 3 will have adverse reactions. Okay, out of 1 million. Okay, now, and then you look at a disease like polio. So with polio, out of 1 million, 100,000 can have adverse reactions from that vaccination. Okay, now, in saying that, polio is now nearly eradicated. Okay, so, you know, you can see where we're going with this. So the vaccination is to save girls from cervical cancer. So, I mean, if people want to query it, just, you know, do your research, but go through relevant, you know, credible sources. You know, you will get the odd debate with people who think otherwise, but yeah, there is some positive news out there. So
that's great. We're going to have to take a break. We have sort of run out of time to get through our quiz, but that's okay because that was really important stuff. Cervical cancer. There are a lot of myths, and I think that what we'll try and do is either put up on the screen or put up on our Facebook page some of the myths and some of the facts around cancers, particularly cervical cancer, and getting that vaccine. So it's time for a very quick break. Don't go away. We'll be back with more very soon. Thank you. Welcome back to Point of View, and we're almost out of time. It's almost time for everybody to say their final words. But before we go, I just thought that I would point out something because Dadi's our guest, and that is that the Motuan language is one of only 4 official languages in our country. It is the only Indigenous language that has been made an official language. I was born in Port Moresby. I was raised in the city, and I only know the swear words. So I think that what I would like is for you to teach us each, because Philly, do you know any more Motuan words?
No, not at all.
Yeah, and you probably know a few, maybe.
A little.
Just the swear words, like me. So 3 useful things to say in the Motuan language that would get us by in life.
Oh, geez, in life, this is quite a task.
Well, my important things are, can I have a cup of tea? You know, these kinds of things.
I'd probably can I get your number?
Okay, all right, good one. How do we say, can I get your number?
Oh, geez, no, that's,
Mike, yes, continue.
But no, if we want to make it, I think simple ones are usually the easy ones to learn, and you know, if we steer away from swear words, since the show is airing, in the evening, you want to say good night.
Yes. Okay.
So it's Bamahuta.
Yes. I knew that one.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful word.
It is.
Bamahuta. Okay. And what about actually good morning? How are you today?
Daba namona.
Yeah.
And then it's oinamo.
Yeah.
Daba namona.
Oinamo.
Daba namona. Bamahuta. Daba namona. Okay.
It's like when I'm talking to my son now. then he gives me a swear word to reply. Great.
Bamahuta is good night. Daba namona.
Yes, good morning.
Oinamo.
Oinamo.
Yes.
Oinamo.
Yeah, so you did it right. The oinamo with a little.
With a little.
That's very Australian oinamo.
It's in my blood.
Oinamo.
I do know kuku anielasi and buatau anielasi. That means no smoking and no binla. Don't you read the signs?
Obviously you.
It's all the signs. Yes, it's how you learn more too.
I like that.
There you go. Okay, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Izzy, what's your final words? Anything you would like to say about today's program?
Oh, I just would like to say, if you're feeling ill and you ignore your body, as we explored in the previous segments, and you're ignoring your body and you're not listening to all the signs, go to a screening wherever you can. Just get to one. It's better. Prevention is better than cure. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Beautiful. Philly.
Thank you so much, Dadi Toka, for coming on the show. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, same thing. Prevention is better than cure. And I'm really, really proud of the heritage that that I've learned about, because I didn't understand or know who the traditional landowners of Port Moresby was. So that was a good lesson. I posted that on Facebook and learned. But yeah, it's exciting, and I hope that the people of this area get the recognition they deserve, and that we invest back in them, and help protect their culture and their heritage, their land, and just respect. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say, Dadi, before we sign off?
Yeah, no, well, listen, thank you very much for having me on the show, and it's always important to try and get as much coverage as we can, especially when you're talking about health issues, preventable ones, and of course thank you for the discussion on the Motu Koita people, and acknowledging how the city came about as well.
Yeah.
But like on top of that, if I may add,
yes.
I was at a function last night, and it was the airing of a new documentary. I think it's called Headhunt.
The Headhunt, yeah.
Headhunt.
Headhunters Revisited.
Okay,
yeah.
So there was a video footage there, black and white, 1926, and they went into Hanobada. 1926.
Wow.
It was amazing. Okay, so among all the shots, it went for about 3 or 4 minutes. Among all the shots was a footage of children playing cricket.
Oh
Wow.
my
On the
gosh.
So that explains why the Barramundis
Yeah,
packed
that's
it.
where all our rep players come from this part of the world.
And the premiere the other night, eh?
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, but yeah, once again, thank you very much, for that recognition.
Yeah. Look, I just want to say the same. I just think I want to encourage everybody that is a resident of this city especially to learn a bit more about our traditional landowners. I was born in this city. I love this city, and therefore I love everything about it. And it begins with the people who have so graciously allowed us to be on their land. So shout out to you and your peeps, Dadi.
Thank you. Yes.
And thank you, of course, Philly. Thank you, Izzy. And thank you to everybody out there for tuning in once again for Point of View. We'll be back again soon. Make sure you enjoy the rest of your day.